This is Gavin from Lenovo Social. We'd like to welcome you to the unboxing, quote unquote, of our brand new ThinkPad X130e. This is a product that's going to take ThinkPad tough and ruggedness to a new level. We'd like to welcome, as always, our Lenovo product ambassador, Kevin Beck.
Kevin.
And also special guest, Jarrett York, who's the ThinkPad product manager for North America.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. Good to have you guys here.
Thank you.
I might turn it over to Kevin up front and just let him show you guys. We don't even have a box yet, so he'll do the ceremonial mock cutting of the top of the box.
Of the tape.
Fabulous. And then Kevin, show us this thing.
Okay. We'll get a little more into some of the design philosophy and the rationale behind this product in a few minutes, but just want to take you through it. It's an 11.6 inch, what would traditionally be called a netbook class size product, but we're going to very much stay away from that term because we've designed this, in fact, to meet or exceed all of our standard ThinkPad design parameters. And we'll go a little bit into the why of that later, but this is something that we built with a lot of direct feedback from K through 12 educators. It's something that's good for anybody, but specifically focused on meeting the needs of education. So let me just close this down here briefly and we'll do the standard walk around. We've got our SD card slot, our first of our USB ports, which are a bit recessed because we've added extra strengthening for the side-to-side up and down flex on these ports, so that if anything's plugged in and a cord gets kicked, right, we've actually amped that up above and beyond our normal standards based on education feedback. Our second standard USB port, that one is yellow, so it's powered, continues to be able to charge a phone or some external device from that, some devices anyway, depending on how much power they draw. Got our power plug there, our all-important lock slot. In the back here, you'll notice that this is a 6-cell battery, which does fit flush, so we've got nothing sticking out, no additional flex or stress to be put on the system from that. Our standard VGA monitor out, our cooling fan, HDMI, the third USB port, Ethernet port also strengthened, and our headphone jack. Great.
I like the fact that the battery doesn't jut out. I know in the past we have had some 6-cell batteries that stick out. And Kevin, let's jump right into some of the things that make this tough. We took feedback from somewhere upwards of 4 million students, and we made about 10 design changes or improvements for this thing based on changes from the X120e that came before it, I guess. But tell us about some of the things. We were joking before we started filming about how, middle school students or K through 12 students, it's one of the most brutal audiences on the planet. They can abuse a computer more than storm chasers and military people.
Exactly.
So talk to us about some of these changes.
Okay, I'll go for the first through the first few and then turn it over to Jarrett. I'll take the easy ones and let you let Jarrett do the hard ones. So again, based on feedback from these large constituencies of students, but ultimately through their teachers and their CIOs, and just paper studies that we've done with K through 12 and education CIOs, that ruggedness and the ability to actually withstand the rigors of an education environment, one of their key drivers in choosing a machine to use. So one of the things that we did is we went with our newer island style, also known in the industry as a chiclet style keyboard. It makes it much more difficult for anything to get up under the keys and pop them off. So it's ultimately a more durable and long-term reliable type of keyboard. You'll notice it's difficult to see here, but we actually have a rubber bumper all around the case here, which actually let us take our corner drop testing even above what we do with some of the other ThinkPads to a higher level to make sure it could withstand those rigors. 33% stronger, I believe, Jarrett, is what we actually tested to.
What does that literally mean when you say a corner drop test? What do they literally stand there and drop this thing from various heights?
Right, so the standard testing for a notebook is done. There's flat drop, right, which is system closed, just drop from a height, and you pull the pin out and the thing slams flat down. Which lets you test the durability and resistance to vibration of some of the internal components. But for testing the actual, more real-world, realistic scenario of how it's dropped out of somebody's bag or their hand, we dropped it on all 8 external corners. So it's 4 sides, it's thick. So take it up to a certain height and drop it on all 8 external corners. And
something which the average, school kid is going to do anyway, day to day, I assume. So.
Right. So we've increased the strength of the bezel,
okay,
and then I'll let Jarrett talk about it. We actually increased the strength of the hinges as well.
Okay. How's that work?
Well, a lot of students love to open and close things quite frequently, especially when they're going from class to class. What we've done is we have actually strengthened the hinges up to 30,000 cycles. So that is pure ThinkPad reliability for you right there. We actually tested it at 50,000 and determined that 30,000 hinges, 30,000 cycles on the hinge works.
Right.
Very well for education.
Yeah, I think the figure that I heard is that even above and beyond business, your average student is somewhere between 6 and 7 times, opens and closes their PC potentially 6 or 7 times more often than even a business user does. So
Sure. So even if I'm in the office one day, I may go to a few meetings, but I'm usually carrying the thing open anyway when I go to a meeting. But yeah, if you're going from
Right.
class to class, 6 or 8 classes a day, and hopefully you're doing your homework at night as well.
Right.
Then that's quite a few opens and closes. What else are we missing here, Jared, on the ruggedness and design?
So in addition to that, as Kevin pointed out, where you see the ports have been recessed. Now we did that because primarily a lot of times kids, whether they mean to do it or not, stick foreign objects in the ports. And we've also strengthened the ports behind the recession of the ports. Before they were flat and flush against the machine, and it was easy to get things caught in there.
Okay.
Children are very curious and they like to see what happens if they stick things in holes, and so we've strengthened it so that that will not be one of the larger claims when it comes to repairs. So we want to keep kids studying and keep kids learning. Another thing that we've added is the APS always on. Now you all are familiar with the APS, the hard drive protection. It
the
works
active
as
protection system, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
works as an airbag for the hard drive, and so what it does is it detects the difference between normal drops and damaging drops. And so with that being said, we have it set to where you cannot turn it off.
Right.
So it's always on. You don't have to think about it. It adds to the carefree element for protection, extra ruggedness. Another thing is the mil specs, and we're all familiar with the 8 mil specs. Would you say baked, burned?
Yeah, baked, battered, and blistered,
Yes.
blown with dust. You know, we freeze them, we bake them, we
Yes.
abuse ThinkPads.
Hot,
before you do.
cold, stress from hot to cold
Right.
rapidly,
Sure.
altitude, all of the standard 8 that we put our
We throw
normal,
cream
all of our
pies,
classic
we throw a
ThinkPads
cream
through.
pie at it. Is
Yeah,
that right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So we've done that, and we've added, again, like Kevin mentioned,
Yep.
the rubber bumper. We've actually added extra thickness to the bezel, so that way we do not damage the LCD panel. So we've done a whole lot of research to make sure we've knocked out those issues.
And worth noting that, again, the reason we did this is we had feedback from roughly 4 million students, and we also know from our own research and data that students are 4 times as likely as humans, as I was saying, I'm kidding, of course, but 4 times as likely as non-student users to have an event or an accident that leads to a repair. So, with that in mind, we built this. Having said that, Kevin, we're not just selling this to large school systems and people like that. This is a statement for anybody who needs a durable laptop. Is that right?
Absolutely. Just to sort of place this in the historical continuum, we started out in this line with the X100, something on the close order of a couple years ago, because the market and people were looking at, and there was obviously a lot of popularity around the netbook class product. And while we did have some traditional classic netbooks in our consumer line, we wanted to build something in a ThinkPad line that sort of took it to the next level, that had a lot of what business and education users needed that just weren't found in the traditional sort of perceived to be almost disposable type netbook. And this really, I guess, is our 4th generation in this form factor.
Right.
And we've gotten, I think, very much to a point where this is meeting, or in some cases actually exceeding, the specs and the toughening and strengthening of ports and things like that we're doing in the classic
Sure.
ThinkPad. But the good news, which I think is your ultimate point, is that since it is designed for a rougher and tougher audience, is you get something for a very attractive price point, which is...
Yeah, I think it's starting around $469 in the U.S. Don't quote me on that. There's different configurations, but
Right.
yeah, again, it's got so much more function than what's traditionally been known as a netbook. And But and we should also acknowledge the weight of this thing. It's with a 6-cell battery, it's somewhere around 3.9 pounds.
Right.
1.78 or so kilograms. And again, this is with a 6-cell battery, but we're if you're looking for thin and light, we have other things like our X220 or our IdeaPad U300S. This is a beast. This is meant to be a tank, right?
Right, and just to go back and reiterate the points that this is a full ThinkPad in terms of fulfillment and warranty capabilities and serviceability. Also, full function. Keep me honest on this, Jarrett. Available with AMD processors and Intel processors.
That is correct.
Up to an i3 on the Intel side.
Yes.
With support for 8 gigs of RAM.
That's right.
Right. Full assortment of hard drives, up to 320, 500 gig hard drives and SSD drives, and full OS capability. Right. A lot of your netbooks in the earlier days were limited to some very restricted versions like Windows 7 Starter Edition and things like that.
Right.
Basic editions. This will be available with up to and including full Windows 7 Pro.
64-bit and 32-bit.
64-bit and 32-bit support. So you get a great price point and a really durable product that fits the use case and scenarios that a lot of people looked to netbooks to fill.
Sure.
But much more a traditional ThinkPad.
Okay.
Obviously has the track point, has the trackpad, the click pad.
Right.
And so we think in terms of functionality and design, it's just a whole lot of machine for that price point, really.
Good.
And it's also good to note that this is actually a full-sized keyboard. A lot of the other form factors from our competitors will have maybe 96 or 97% full-size keyboard, but this is 100% full-size keyboard here. And keep in mind, it is spill resistant, so it will withstand a lot more than most of our other competitors as well.
Good points. And ThinkPad's long known not only for their durability and ruggedness, but for their keyboard. We've won a heap of awards for design, the ergonomic comfort of keyboards, and that type of thing. Guys, I think we've hit the major points today. I'd ask all of you guys watching to check Lenovo.com for more details. Guys, thanks for being with us today.
All right, excellent. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.